Whole Foods, he knows it is not enough. So he founded this great movement called conscious capitalism that certainly has so many synergies with the B movement. And we have to build a stronger bonding. So please, let's give a huge welcome to the great Jay and to John Mackey to this conversation.
Estoy tan enamorado de la negra Tomasa que cuando se va de casa, pero que triste me pongo.
John, thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
I want to start by just echoing something that Juan Pablo said, which is I think everybody knows you through your work at Whole Foods and thinks about it as an individual business and a huge success story. But not many people, I think, give Whole Foods enough credit and you enough credit for your leadership for you didn't just build a company, but you built a marketplace that supported literally tens of thousands of companies. And so Mary Lou and Marie Jose, who talked before about the food system being broken, a big part of fixing that food system is creating access to market at scale for hundreds of companies like Prana. And so we all owe you a huge debt of gratitude for not only building Whole Foods, but through building Whole Foods to build a marketplace for thousands of other companies that are helping to reshape the food system all over the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
And as Juan Pablo said, you're not only a market builder, but you're a movement builder for what you've done at Conscious Capitalism, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the first thing I'd love to talk about is I think what's probably on lots of people's minds. We were talking a little bit earlier today, and you were saying you've been through how many mergers and acquisitions in your career at Whole Foods?
Well, we've acquired 25 companies, but we've only been acquired once. I think hopefully we'll stay married.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good aspiration. And so it would be great if you could describe a little bit of the process, because like the Whole Foods Amazon deal is a big deal. It's not only a big deal economically, but because you've helped build a marketplace and are a leader of a movement of conscious capitalism, a lot of people have got their eyes on that. And so I'm just curious, as you went through that process and what was going on, maybe you could just describe that for folks who weren't necessarily reading Street Insider every day.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit, but needless to say, every place I go now, people are asking me about Amazon and giving me stuff to give to Jeff Bezos. But you know the old story, Jay, about I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. In this case, I could tell you, but then Amazon would have me killed. So I have to be a little bit just careful about what I say.
Sure.
And see cameras out there, so I got to be especially careful. But I can tell you a little bit of what I can tell you is that how kind of we kind of connected up. So one of the reasons I'm actually here today is, well, I had just had my doubts about, I always thought B Corps was a good idea, a very idealistic idea. I saw it as a fellow traveler with conscious capitalism, but, you know, I really didn't think it was necessary. I thought, you know, I mean, you have a stakeholder model, you take care of all the stakeholders, what do you need this legal form for? And I created some bad karma by thinking that. So when Whole Foods we had activists come into our stock because competition picked up so much in the food retailing business, and Whole Foods was being copied and people were undercutting us in price. And we saw our same-store sales, which had averaged 8% for 35 years, began to go down and then went negative for a couple of years. And we got shareholder activists in the stock, and besides trashing me publicly frequently, but they really wanted us to sell. They want to take over the company, take over our board, and they want to force us into a sale to, I'm sure, a supermarket company that would have been a very bad partner for us. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, did I wish we were a B Corp. Now, we couldn't have ever been a B Corp because B Corps have only been around about 10 years, and Whole Foods has been public for we were public for 25 years. So I'm sure the shareholders would never have voted it in, but I wish that I would love to have tested the idea of shareholder activists versus the legal form of a B Corp. But
that would have been a great test case.
But so I sort of feel like I kind of owe you and the B Corp movement an apology. So that's what I'm doing here publicly, making an apology.
There's absolutely no need for an apology, but
yeah, there was a need for me to do it. But so anyway, let's real quickly on the Amazon thing. I mean, I told a story, and it's actually a very good metaphor because we got the shareholder activists trying to take the company over, trying to force us into something, and I began to look around for, if we're going to be forced into a sale, then who would make a good partner for us? And there were several I checked with, but the one that really intrigued me was Amazon, because I admired the company for many years. I'm a customer, Prime member, and I'd met Jeff Bezos. I really liked him. He's a brilliant guy. He's a really, really smart guy, and had a good connection with him. But I didn't know how to get hold of him, so we were working with a firm in New York that was kind of helping us in defense against the activist. And I asked one of the partners there, a guy named Matt Yale, and I asked him, I said, Matt, do you know how to get in touch with Amazon? I'd like to at least explore the possibility of them purchasing or acquiring Whole Foods. And he said, yeah, my college roommate was Jay Carney. Jay Carney was the President Obama's communications head, and then he's now the communications head, chief communications officer of Amazon. So Matt made an inquiry, would you guys like to meet with Whole Foods, explore the possibility of maybe acquiring them? And they were very, very interested. And so I always say we were kind of set up on a blind date. And I flew up to Seattle with 3 of my senior executives, and we met with Jeff Bezos and 3 of their senior executives actually in Jeff Bezos' boathouse, just off his main house. Very heavy security there. I don't suggest you try to go pop by there anytime. So it was love at first sight. When we talked with them, it was like, man, these guys are so smart, they're so creative, they're so authentic. That's what really struck me about them. It was truly love at first sight. And you know how when you fall in love, you have the conversation? You might stay up all night, have the conversation, you realize, oh my God, she's like amazing, or he's so cool. Well, that's how we felt. And when we left his home and we huddled in a restaurant, we were talking to ourselves, and it was like, those guys are incredible. I would love to merge with them. And it was like everybody was saying the same thing, and then it was like, do you think they liked us too?
How long did it take before he texted you?
Well, better. 4 days later, they sent 8 senior executives down to Austin, disguised as consultants. And we had a 10-hour conversation, and we began to formulate how we were going to merge the company, because we just knew. So, set up on a blind date, love at first sight. 6 weeks after the day we met, we were engaged to be married.
And now, so that's fortunate, right? Given the circumstance you found yourself in, being pressured into, like you said, being pressured into some form of transaction, and just trying to find the best transaction within a relatively limited window.
No, I don't know if it was trying to find the best transaction, just exploring possibilities. I feel very fortunate because I think Amazon is the perfect partner for Whole Foods because of their as I say, Whole Foods was in this trap, the whole paycheck trap. And we've cut our prices plenty of times, but nobody cares. People go in, they expect us to be expensive, they look for things that are more expensive, and that's the narrative. How are we going to get out of that narrative? Well, the Amazon narrative is more powerful than that.
Right.
Amazon's got a very powerful narrative. When they're one of the largest, most successful companies in the entire history of the human race. So when we cut prices and Amazon did it, my God, you should see what happened to our sales.
Right.
And just incredible.
And you did that on the day that the deal closed, if I remember.
The day that we don't, yeah, those guys don't mess around.
Right, right. And so I've got a question. So, I literally don't know the answer to this, which is like breaking interviewer rule number 1. Is Whole Foods like a wholly owned subsidiary of Amazon? Like from a structure standpoint?
Yeah, we still have it. We still have our own corporate form, corporate identity, but it's like instead of reporting to a board of directors,
right,
I report to like an Amazon board of directors.
Right. So one thought is there are a handful.
I'm not going to go ask Jeff Bezos if he wants to become a B Corp.
Well, you know what's interesting. That's fair. And so maybe the baby step to that would be like Amazon doesn't have to become a B Corp, but Whole Foods still could become a B Corp.
We certainly, in any case, could join the B Corp community.
That's true.
And adhere to the principles and as well as the qualifications that you need to follow. I think that's something I could promise. You know, we've only been married for 5 weeks.
well,
I'm not going to go talk about another girl.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Although this partner might help you stay beautiful.
Well, actually, technically, I think we're more the woman in the marriage.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, you know, let's segue to.
Thank God. Let's get off this subject.
Yeah. No, sure. Let's segue to not only a market builder but a movement builder. And amidst all the success of Whole Foods and all the difficulties of running a publicly traded company and all the pressures of that, in the middle of that, you decided to help birth a movement called conscious capitalism. And maybe you could talk about like why you decided to sort of double down and take on the movement building aspect of your vocation.
I've been building movements for years in lots of different ways. So, this one's so important. I think capitalism is the greatest force for progress in the history of the world. Nothing else is even close to it. It has, and there are two things that drove me to want to start Conscious Capitalism or co-found it and write the book, co-author the book on it. One is that I think capitalism is amazing, and I think it's misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a larger meta-narrative in our society about business, and that meta-narrative is business sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about money. All people care about is profits, and they're greedy, they're selfish, they're exploitative. They're a bunch of sociopaths running around just lining their pockets. That's kind of a meta-narrative about business in our world. And it's not new. It's been going on for thousands of years. Think about it. The business people, the merchants have always been persecuted throughout all history. The Jews have been run out of country after country after country. They were the tradesmen. They were the money lenders. They were the business people, the merchants. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the Chinese in the East. They went all through the Orient and through Asia, and they were very successful business people, and they were persecuted for it. So capitalism is this great force for progress, and yet business itself is mistrusted. Capitalism is seen as greedy and selfish. So first of all, it's try to resurrect the reputation of capitalism. Mm-hmm. But secondly, there's a higher form of it. I always say capitalism's good, but it could be a heck of a lot better. Mm-hmm. We can do things more consciously. Business has a higher purpose than just making money. I mean, it's like our bodies make red blood cells. We'd die if we didn't make red blood cells, but it doesn't logically follow that the purpose of our lives is to make red blood cells. Mm-hmm. Similarly, business has to make money. It has to be profitable. But that doesn't mean that's its purpose. Its purpose is to create value for other people. Mm-hmm. And it's tremendous at doing that, but it's not conscious of it. Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, John, like when you, and conscious capitalism's been around for a while. I don't mean the idea, but from the organization and the movement. And so what do you see from where you're sitting now as the biggest opportunities and the biggest challenges for helping conscious capitalism scale?
I mean, it is scaling. It's actually going pretty darn fast. I mean, we're just like the B Corp is scaling and moving throughout the world, self-conscious capitalism. Another reason why I'm here is that, you know, we really should work closely together. I think our overlap in consciousness and values is very, very, very close.
Agree.
So I think we can help one another, and we both really believe in business being a force for good, and to do it in a more conscious, socially responsible, environmentally responsible way. So yeah, let's help each other.
I'm totally with that. What do you see as the biggest challenges? Like there's momentum clearly, and I think we both feel that. And when you see, like, what are some of either the pitfalls?
There's two big challenges. They come from different directions. One big challenge is all businesses are inherently bad. So there's no redeeming. You can't put lipstick on a pig. So there's a certain mindset out there that just says, well, you're trying to redeem yourself through good works, but inherently, because you're business people, you can't be good.
Right.
So nice try.
Right.
And then from the other end, there's the people that's, what needs fixing? Capitalism's perfect just the way it is. Get over it.
Right.
And so you get skepticism from people that are capitalists, and you get skepticism from people that hate capitalism.
Do you see it as a sort of a middle path?
Exactly.
And is there anything, when you think about that narrative and the change, the opportunities and challenges, is there anything specific about this moment with everything that's happening in the world right now that you think is any particular call to business leaders? You're speaking to an auditorium full of theater full of business leaders.
I know the part of capitalism that is the most diseased, and that's the financial sector, right? It's almost lost its gyroscope of values. It has become just about money and profits. I mean, when we had shareholder activists, that was really hammered home for me. None of the other values of Whole Foods Market mattered. Just how could we get a few more dollars out of that stock price,
right,
and do whatever it takes to do that. Did you destroy the company? You got 90,000 jobs, 16 billion in sales? Who cares? If we can make a couple $100 million, throw it all away.
Right.
So that's a very sick part of the capitalism. So I think B Corps are partly, benefit corporations are partly they're the tip of a reform movement that capitalism needs as a whole, but particularly the financial sector needs it. Why I liked hearing some of the earlier speakers. That was very inspiring to me.
Yeah, Michael from BDC and Mary Lou from Tritos
they were
quite
amazing.
Inspiring.
They were great.
Totally agree. And there's more like them from the Global Alliance of Banking on Values and the whole impact investing movement. So it seems like things are moving in that direction, albeit not as quickly as we'd like. So I've got a question for you. There are not many people in this room know who Milton Friedman is. But not many people have had the opportunity to build a relationship with him, and you have. And I'm curious, one of his famous lines is the social responsibility of businesses to increase profits. The rest of that sentence in the text, that 1970 text says, as long as it operates within the law and ethical custom. And most people don't remember the end of that sentence, where Milton Friedman talked about the guardrails on business activity in the pursuit of profit within the guardrails of not only the law, but also ethical custom. And I'm curious, not that you can look into Milton Friedman's mind, but you did know the man. I'm just curious, he's a smart guy. He didn't have to say ethical custom. He could have just said within the law.
Right.
Why do you think he included that second part of that sentence?
Well, first, since I know we're going to run out of time pretty soon, I'll say that I had a debate with Milton Friedman. You can find it if you Google it. Reason Magazine published the debate. I laid out my views about why business should be socially responsible, and we debated it. So since that's the thing I think the audience should refer to. But look, Milton Friedman, first of all, he was an economist, not a business person. So when you're having to deal with customers and employees and suppliers, and you have to meet a payroll, and you're trying to meet competition, you see things differently than an economist does. And Milton Friedman saw that the stakeholders were interdependent. He didn't have that vocabulary for it.
Right.
He didn't have that language. But he saw the interdependence. But basically, he took for granted the ethics of Judeo-Christian values that had had basically been a bulwark for capitalism for hundreds of years, but were basically disappearing. And in some ways, they've not disappeared from the society, but they've disappeared from some of the business community. And he didn't see that, I don't think. So those guardrails aren't there anymore, or they're not nearly as strong as they used to be. And I could see that. I was more in touch with it, and Milton didn't see it. So that's kind of what the debate was about. I was basically saying, of course, you need to be socially responsible. That's just good business. And he thought if you just made money, that would inherently, you'd have to have cooperation between all the stakeholders to do that. So he took it for granted. I didn't.
Right.
And also, my way is a better way to market business and capitalism than Milton's way. If you just talk about only making money, then you played into the enemies of business's hands, because that's what they want to say about you. You just care about money. You have no soul. And Milton was, therefore, was actually hurting capitalism and didn't even realize it, I don't think. But just to be clear, I greatly admired the man. I disagree with the way he's been trashed. He was a brilliant guy, beautiful heart, and I think he has a great legacy.
Agree. I'd love to end on, you talked about more collaboration and a closer relationship between conscious capitalism and B Corp. And I think that everybody here would join me in saying that we'd like nothing more, and that what we see in this arc of history is the evolution of capitalism from one phase that's focused on shareholder primacy and sort of a shareholder-dominant capitalism, and ushering in, and you're helping us usher in a new era of stakeholder capitalism. And it's going to be fun to work on that together.
Let's do it, man. It's going to be so much fun.
Thanks, John.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.